Well, we're in the outskirts of Melbourne. There have been reports that alien life forms have been spotted right on the end of this pier. And apparently, they only come out at night. Now, these scientists know what to expect. They've seen this kind of thing before. They're pretty sure that what we're dealing with are cephalopods. So, Mark, do you think they're down there?
That's what we're here to find out.
Dr. Mark Norman has dedicated his adult life to hunting cephalopods. And no, they're not from outer space. But there is something very science fiction about descending into the icy black waters of Port Phillip Bay in search of the strangest creatures on Earth. They're the ultimate masters of disguise, almost impossible to find. And as Mark tells it, they are so different in their design, they might as well be aliens.
You couldn't get an animal that's more different or more alien to us. They've got such a weird shape to start with, like they've got 8 arms coming off their mouth when they walk around. It's like they're running around on super lips. They've got a head in the middle of their body. They've got a donut-shaped brain. They've got 3 hearts, blue blood, jet propulsion, a bag out the back like a bean bag that they stick all the body bits in. You just couldn't get anything more different from us.
The cephalopods include octopus, cuttlefish and squid. This one's a southern sand octopus. Apart from eating them with fish and chips, most of us know very little about them. This is almost the suburbs. They wouldn't even know these animals are here.
No, I think they're kind of the monsters of the deep they're totally unaware of, and most people wouldn't even stick their head underwater at night, let alone poke around far out in the bay. But there's just such amazing creatures out there.
By diving at night, Mark has been able to identify and film the behaviour of these mainly nocturnal animals. One of his particular favourites is the aptly named dumpling squid.
I got one. It's a dumpling squid.
He's not much to look at, but this little guy's got a few tricks up his tentacles.
Well, one of them is that they can glue sand on the back of their body and have it as camouflage when they're swimming around during the day. They have special glue glands in their skin, and if they get attacked, they've also got acid glands in the skin. They can squirt acid, and that disconnects the glue and the sand coat, and they can drop that as a decoy while they swim off in another direction. So they sort of have their own glue and their own anti-glue built into their skin.
Okay, well tell me, night dives, men in black. Do you ever feel like you're living in an episode of The X-Files?
No. Most of the time we're sitting there going, what the hell are we doing here? It's 4 in the morning, it's 8 degrees in the air, it's 2 degrees in the water.
We wish we were at home watching The X-Files.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still not convinced, especially when Mark takes me to his work the next day at the Melbourne Museum. Row upon row of weird life forms preserved in glass jars. They give little indication of the amazing disguise strategies these animals have when alive.
There we go. This guy is one of the hardest ones to find. He's called the day octopus, and it's rare for an octopus to be walking around during daytime. It's really good at camouflage. This guy's so good at hiding in amongst rocks and coral. He doesn't look much while he's dead. He's sort of just a big gooby bit of rubber or chewing gum, but when they're alive, the skin of these animals is spectacular. It can do colour changes all the time. It can also do shape changes where it sticks up all these spikes on the body, can look like seaweeds, can look like rocks, can look like coral. And so it's almost like their skin's covered in television screens for colour change, and then add the shape change on top of it. It makes animation graphics in movies look like paint drying.
Well, isn't he the reason you nearly didn't get your PhD?
Oh, well, the start of my PhD was really bad because I spent 3 months on my first trip to the Great Barrier Reef looking for octopuses, and in 3 months didn't find a single octopus. Ended up buying one at a fishing co-op and bringing it home in the boot of my little rusty car, thinking my life was over.
Since this less than spectacular start, Dr. Norman has discovered a previously unknown galaxy of cephalopods. He has single-handedly identified over 150 new species, but none so extraordinary as the never-before-filmed Mimic Octopus.
The Mimic Octopus is an interesting animal because it takes it one step further. Instead of matching a background like camouflage, it actually becomes an object or an animal in its own right. And the place that it lives is bare sand flats and mud flats out in shallow waters of Indonesia and New Guinea. And so being caught in the open by a passing fish, you've got to look either deadly or inedible. And this octopus has developed this repertoire of looking like a flounder, poisonous lionfish, a poisonous sea snake. It just is able to do all these weird postures and weird behaviours. So in the case of the sea snake, if it gets hassled by certain sorts of attackers, and it's often little aggressive damselfish, it'll put 6 arms down a hole, put the other 2 up and undulate them like the kind of striking pose of a banded sea snake, which are very poisonous and are found in the area. So evolution's sort of led to this amazing octopus behaviour where it's wandering around, copying all these things that live in the same area. I think the reason that this group's ended up with such weird forms, high speed, mega camouflage, all these different sorts of behaviours is because they are a really good meal. You don't have bones, you don't have armour, you don't have poisons, you don't have spines, and so these critters are really rump steak swimming around, and so they have to be faster or cleverer or better at squeezing through tiny holes or really good at hiding or conning animals that they are a poisonous sea snake. And so I think the pressure to out-evolve their fish predators has led to this amazing group of animals.
And perhaps the most amazing is the mythical giant squid. No one has ever seen one alive. Only these specimens dragged up in fishing nets betray its existence. It has adopted the ultimate defence, hiding deep in the ocean, beyond the reach even of light.
It lives down in these cold black waters, acting as an ambush predator, shooting out and grabbing passing fish and squid. I love the idea we know so little about it. It's actually a good figurehead for how little we know about the deep sea in general, and we know very little. We've covered less than 1% of the deep ocean floor, and yet if people came from outer space and said, what is your most common habitat on Earth, it would be the deep sea. And we know more about what's under rocks on Mars than we do about what's in our own deep ocean. So this will give you an idea of how big giant squids really are. These are the 2 feeding tentacles out of a 10-metre long giant squid. So these are the tentacles they shoot out to grab their food with.
They're just amazing. And how big do giant squid get?
Well, the biggest on record's 18 metres, so you're looking about the length of a bus. But most of the length is these sorts of long feeding tentacles.
But still, it's a hell of a lot of calamari.
It's a hell of a lot of calamari, and the rings would have been the size of car tyres.
Here it is, the acid test. Can I tempt you?
Calamari rings.
Yes.
After all you know about how intelligent they are, I mean, how can you eat them?
Well, I think they're one of the few seafoods you can eat. They're fast growing, they're short-lived, they reproduce really well. Compare that with prawns or deep sea fish, I'd much rather eat this if I don't think about it too hard.
All right then, prove it. Cheers.
Cheers.